an experience for the curious mind. I'm your host, Mystic Cat, and Tarot Talk is a show where we look at changing our story to change our life. It's not woo-woo, it's a therapeutic perspective on tarot coming from a place of self-awareness, clarity, and tarot as a tool for therapeutic self-help and practical action steps. Now, what are we going to talk about today? Well, it's February, and in honor of one of our most manufactured holidays, I'm going to have a look at where to find love in the cards. Where is the love? I'll be referring to cards in a traditional tarot deck. So oracle cards tend to be more obvious when they're addressing love. It'll usually say love like right on the card, or it'll show it somehow. And some oracle decks are even totally focused on love, like Whispers of Love oracle cards, Romance Angels oracle cards, Journey of Love oracle cards, Power of Love activation cards. There's definitely places where the love is obvious. And there's even some love-centered tarot decks. The True Love Tarot, Psychic Tarot for the Heart, that kind of thing. But typically, however, tarot cards treat love as one of many aspects of life. So it's sort of all mixed in the deck and may not be as obvious at first sight where the love is. Okay, yeah, I said one of the most manufactured holidays. Yeah, it is because, it pretty much is a vehicle for selling chocolates and maybe champagne, roses, greeting cards. But aside from all that, I think having a holiday dedicated to love is a wonderful idea. But I think it can be done without a lot of merchandise or consumering. So with that, let's start on where to find the love in a traditional tarot deck. I'll start with the obvious, the Suit of Cups. Cups is a suit of emotions. We're gonna find some love here. As I've said many times, different decks, even your traditional tarot decks, may have different words for this suit of cups, maybe chalices or goblets or hearts or something like that. But it is the suit of emotions, so that all of the cups cards deal with love in one way or another. We can look at the Ace of Cups. It's the first card of the suit, so it speaks to a beginning or a renewal of love and should figure very strongly. And if it comes up in any reading about love, you can definitely feel the love in that one or see it. It's fairly brimming with love. Another good one in the Suit of Cups for love is the Ten of Cups. It's the last numbered card in the suit, before it goes to the court cards. And it speaks to a culmination of love, a fulfillment of the promise of the ace. Which is how the numbered cards tend to work in any of the suits, right? They're starting with something new or renewal of something having to do with that suit, and then they go to the fulfillment or culmination or completeness of that with the 10. Okay, yes, though, there's lots of cards in between the ace and the 10. Some of those cards in the Cups suit give encouragement, like the Two of Cups, which is a marriage or a love partnership or tends to represent that kind of thing. Nine of Cups, so wonderful, huh? It's like love all around, inside and out. Some other Cups cards refer to the challenges of love and loving, like the Four of Cups. And here, traditionally, we're looking at when to let go of love or pass on something love-related and move on. The Five of Cups, I usually think about that one as fixating on love loss or love disappointment in some way. And then the Eight of Cups, I see that a lot of times. It comes up as figuring out who's really worth your time and love investment. Now, I want to say that any of these cards, when I talk about what they mean, it's not this kind of set in stone thing. We're looking at what it means in this sort of absolute sense, But when you do a reading, you're looking at that card in relation to all the other cards around it, the cards that came before it and after it and, are directly around it. Also, we're looking at it in terms of if the person you're doing a reading for asks for something specific. So if it's workplace and they are not indeed having a love relationship at their workplace, it could have something to do with, loving the job or having relationships at work that are challenging or whatever. So my caution here, my disclaimer is I'm giving absolute meanings, but no meaning is strictly absolute once you get it in relation to other cards. Except at its core, like a 2 is a duality card, and an ace is a beginning card, and a 10 is a fulfillment card. But within those parameters, with the number of the card and the suit of the card, there's a lot of room for interpretation of shades of meaning. And any of those cups cards, the ones I just talked about, can be looked at in terms of love relationships that are not romantic. Like I said, it might depend. I like 6 of Cups for situations with children. I like 3 of Cups for gathering with groups of people we love or just calling to mind those groups of people we love or are closest to us, our core besties. 7 of Cups I like for the things we love or the things we love doing. Then there's the Cups court cards, Page, Knight, Queen, King. And again, different tarot decks vary, so you may have Page, Princess, Prince, Queen. I don't know. There's different ways that different decks have of doing this. I'm going to go with the traditional way that it's done, which is Page, Knight, Queen, King. That sweet, sweet Page of Cups speaks to me of a young person who is gentle and loving and kind and sensitive. And remember, to all of these personalities, there could be sort of a shadow self of this. So this Page of Cups could also be overly dependent or needy. The Knight of Cups tends to be a really fun lover, but not someone who goes the distance. That's how it usually comes up for me, good fun. And I don't think there's anything wrong with good fun. But if you're looking for long-term, might not be the place to look. The shadow might be someone who is only ever fun and never serious, or who does have extracurricular pursuits that interfere with the love relationship. Queen of Cups, that always comes out. She's like the mom card for me, the mom love, the nurturing, caring kind of love. And then the Queen of Cups is someone who expresses that for you, may or may not be an actual mother, but has that sort of way about them. The Queen of Cups often, let me tell you, often I get the Queen of Cups for women who really go overboard in their service to others. So here's kind of the shadow of the mom love, is living for everyone else and not yourself. The King of Cups. Okay, the King of Cups for me is generous, gregarious, compassionate. Everybody likes being around this person. And the shadow would be someone who maybe overdoes this gregariousness or that whole side of either being generous or being gregarious. Maybe they're generous with their time with everyone else but you, or they just are party all the time, or just always about all of their friends and groups, and you never really get one-on-one time, that kind of thing. Or they drink too much. I mean, that's definitely come up for me too. When you're thinking about shadow side, just think of when the traits or tendencies are taken to an extreme, and that can kind of help you figure out how to interpret a shadow side of a card. And why would I want to? Well, I would look at the other cards around it, and they could give me a hint as to whether or not this card was expressing itself in this really positive way or a less positive way, or both ways could apply. You could be like, yeah, this is a really nurturing, loving person, but also they may go too far into being selfless and not think about self-care. So, like that. Now, the Cups is the obvious suit, yes. where love is either blooming, withering, being diverted, being challenged. But what about the less obvious suit cards in the minor arcana? As ever, there's uplifting ones and challenging ones. These are the ones that I see as uplifting or at least encouraging and potentially having something to do with love. I see a lot of them in the rods. Rods are a creative energy and love is a basis of creation. I mean, you could look at it that way. Ace of Rods as an opportunity, right? Could be an opportunity for love. Four of Rods always gives me that happy, loving home feeling. Looking at the Six of Rods is so triumphant and celebratory that I can see that as a feeling we could get with a love match. Eight of Rods, another one, like usually I see it as something where there's so much coming so quick, bam, bam, bam. It could be love, right? It could be just happening in a really fast and exciting way, or it's picked up in that way. You know, maybe you've had a lull for a while in terms of excitement in your love life, and then, woo, something touches off a match, and there you go. Speaking of touching off a match, 10 of Rods can also be, sometimes I've seen it be as kind of carrying a torch for someone, or they could be carrying a torch for you. Now, what about Pentacles? Pentacles are earth, our resources, our money, that kind of thing. Can there be love in the Pentacles? Well, I think Three of Pentacles could be. It could be starting a family. Sometimes it's been that way. It's a creating or manifesting card, and there's three. So I think about that as potentially being a gonna make a baby card. 10 of Pentacles, right? It's got everything in life all lined up. So it could be love and family are part of that. Those are the ones, the minor arcana cards that aren't in the cups suit that I would see as sort of uplifting or encouraging love cards. There's also some cards I would call challenging. Sometimes a Two of Pentacles shows someone juggling more than one love interest. Two of Pentacles, for me, I see it as, you know, a lot of balls in the air, plates in the air, however you want to think about it. Juggling things. Maybe you're juggling more than one love interest. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it could be challenging. Two of Swords could be deciding between two love interests. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, but perhaps a challenging thing. And then the Three of Swords. I hate getting that card. It's like the classic depiction is incredibly evocative of heartbreak. It's a heart pierced with three swords. Does it get any worse? I just don't even know. Yeah, Three of Swords. I mean, it should be obvious there. Five of Swords, though. Sometimes it's picking up the pieces after a fight or a separation or a split. Sort of picking up the pieces after some kind of turmoil, which I think for most of us, anytime there's turmoil, we're having some kind of emotional reaction. And then Five of Rods. That's the fight or disagreement or miscommunication card. And it can certainly happen in love relationships. Another really evocative sword one, the Nine of Swords. That up late, can't sleep because I'm obsessing card. And maybe even crying or swearing. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely many things that can keep us up late, worrying, crying, swearing, but love would be one of them, I'd say. For most of us, at least once this has happened, right? Okay, let's look at the major arcana. There's also some obvious love cards in major arcana. Number one, the Lover's card, of course. Who could argue with that? It's right there. The Sun. Oftentimes the Sun. It's like some of those Rods cards. It just oozes light and love and feeling good and full and complete. The Star can do that for me too. It's kind of full of warm fuzzies and wonderfulness. Sometimes the Emperor and the Empress or the Empress can be a lover, especially if they appear together. They might be kind of a matched set, if you will. People are really suited for each other. But watch out for the Emperor. If you or the person you're reading for has a history of being in controlling relationships, it's a possibility there. Emperor has his good side as well. I'm not saying that it's always like that, but it could have the potential for that. Also, I want to say, now that I'm thinking of it, sorry I didn't think of it before, when I use gendered pronouns like he or she, I'm going with the traditional gendered form of the card, but absolutely any of these cards could apply to any person of any gender. You know, some of us may come off as more masculine or more feminine at any given time. We also may, at any given time, express more of our masculine side than our feminine side, and vice versa. So just to be clear on that, wanted to point that out. Okay, Chariot. It can be kind of like the Eight of Rods, the way it moves things along very quickly. Or with the Chariot on the flip side, feeling like it will never happen, like love will never come, or like this is happening so slow, what's going on? So it can have that speeding up or slowing down effect, and it can be related to love. I've had the Hanged Man sometimes for when someone lets go of a relationship to open the door for something better, or even just for a major compromise in a relationship like that. That would be a card that can refer to love. Justice, of course, with the contract's official document overtone. That can be a marriage contract or prenuptial agreement or something along those lines with having to do with love. Here's one you might not have considered, the Death card. Yeah, because it points to a whole new life. Maybe a beginning, maybe an ending, but a whole new life. Maybe a whole new phase in the relationship where the way you lived before is just utterly gone. Yeah, so think about that. Judgment's kind of like that too, with that phase of life ending rather than a whole new beginning. It's like a certain part of your life, like your kids go to college or something. But either of those can point to a major love relationship. Here's another one that might surprise you. How about the Tower? Speaking of surprises, it often takes us by surprise, just like love, and just rocks our world, yeah? Could also be finding out our love relationship is based on lies or getting something that cracks your world wide open and you finally see with your eyes unveiled and you see something maybe that you weren't letting yourself see, maybe. And the Devil card. That often tells me a relationship is very exploitive or controlling or even abusive. Makes it a very important card to pay attention to. Yeah. So, where is the love? That was like half of the deck. It's like everywhere. And actually, any of the other cards could point to some aspect of a love relationship. Yes, because it depends a lot on the cards that are around them, what the person you're doing the reading for has been asking about, and your deep sense of what the cards are saying. Remember when I talk about that little voice, I'm like, listen to it. Even if it's telling you an interpretation that isn't traditional or one you've never seen in that card before, you could be onto something. That little voice is almost always right. Probably always. I like to think sometimes I made the right choice when I didn't listen to the little voice. And consider, too, the deck you use may not reflect traditional tarot images, so be open to the imagery on whichever particular deck you're using. I have a deck right in front of me with a highly sexualized Six of Pentacles, a card I didn't even include when I was talking about different love cards that aren't in the cup suit, but I can totally see it, like this yin-yang kind of flow. Sure. I've got another deck where the Justice card looks more like punishment than it could ever look like a marriage agreement, so that may never come up. Go with what's in front of you and temper that with the actual traditional meaning and the, of course, number of the card and the suit. I really could go through each of these 78 cards and explain how it can be related to your love life. But the ones I mentioned are the more standout ones, at least for me. So what do you want to do? Let's see where the love is for you. How about that? I'm going to do a reading with a traditional deck. And hopefully at least some of the cards I mentioned will come up so that you can see them in action. And if not, then you can see in action how just about every card in the deck can be related to love. So if you're listening, this reading is for you. It's a general reading. You may or may not personally resonate with these cards, but think about how they might be related to people you know or some aspect of your life having to do with love. Doing a little 5-card reading here. This one is intended specifically to be about love. It's a you-them spread. On the left here, I'm going to put out cards that stand for you. On the right, I'm going to do cards that stand for the love interest or the other person involved. Remember, it doesn't have to be romantic love, just someone you have a relationship with. And in the middle is the general advice. Ooh, this one looks very interesting. I got 1 Cups card anyway. Okay, the you half of the spread. I'm using the Goddess Tarot deck by Chris Walder, if that's how you say it. It looks like a German name, and I'm bad with that. But it's called the Goddess Tarot. And the major arcana have many goddess representations, and this one is Ukemochi. And the name for it is Transformation. It does correspond with the Death card in a traditional deck, so I did mention the Death card. What does that tell us? As I said, for you personally, there's a whole new life waiting for you. Maybe a beginning, maybe an ending. I can say that a lot of this transformative experience for you is happening on an internal level. So think about how you might be changing on the inside and sort of shedding an old emotional skin or way of thinking or believing that you're sort of ditching and stepping into a new way of thinking or believing or conceptualizing love or conceptualizing relationships. Because this card tells me that there's a whole new life ready and waiting, which you may have already begun, but it's very key here in terms of love relationships. It's a very big shift. This goddess, Ukemochi, is a Japanese food goddess, which is interesting. I don't know. I'm thinking in terms of seeds of a new life and that kind of thing, and it blossoming and blooming eventually. But I'm also thinking, is there some way this is related to food for you? Think about that. If it resonates for you, then keep it. If it doesn't, then don't worry about it. Maybe it's just time for a snack. So the World is the other card I have here for the you position. And it's Gaia, of course. The World is the final card of the deck. It represents a culmination, a completion, a major new beginning again. Isn't that interesting? It's like closing, completing one chapter, beginning the next. And with the Death card, or the Transformation card as it's called in this deck, like this is huge. This is no small thing. Big things are moving within and around you to bring you to a whole new way of being. You know what it feels like to me? I'm getting a sense of a sort of very long winter ending and spring being in sight for you emotionally or in terms of love relationship. I really like this. 2 years or less is what I'm seeing. So the person of interest or a person of interest in terms of love relationships, or if that's not a concern for you at this time, it's some relationship. So this person, the Prince of Pentacles. As I said earlier, it doesn't have to be a man just because it's a prince, but it's someone who has these qualities, which in our culture we tend to attribute to masculinity or masculine people. Okay, Prince of Pentacles, we're looking at a very pragmatic, resourceful type of person person, someone maybe who's in business or at our workplace. They may be someone who you've connected with from afar, so maybe through one of the online dating apps or through messaging in some way and some social media platform. And again, they're very practical and down to earth and pragmatic and probably involved in business in some way. So the potential looks good, but I do get the sense that they are very focused and very invested in their business growth and expansion, which isn't bad, just something to be aware of. And the other card for the them is the Nine of Cups, reversed. Are you secretly crushing on this person? That could be with the Nine of Cups reversed. I did mention Nine of Cups in my list of cups cards that I felt were related to love and uplifting or encouraging love. So yes, I see love here. Like I said, because it is reversed, I may be seeing it as either you are secretly crushing on this person or they're secretly crushing on you, or best of all worlds, you're secretly crushing on each other. Well, maybe not best of all worlds. Somebody should say something here. Maybe you want to say something, or maybe they will come say something. Maybe that's a message they have to deliver. But really, what I see here is so very pleasant. And remember, I said spring was coming, and there's a blossoming afoot. There's a little rainbow on this card that I really like, and stars and moons and green grass, and it just feels really wonderful. I get good feels about this person of interest. So that feels very positive to me. And just because you may already be in a relationship doesn't mean that this can't apply to you. So there could be a new beginning or some kind of transformation in your relationship, or that your relationship will experience that really opens up the world for you. And this person that you are already involved with becomes more attentive, more loving, or maybe you fall in love with them all over again, that kind of thing. It doesn't have to be all about new love. In either way, it looks good to me. It feels very rosy and wonderful. I mean, of course, the transformation may be a sticky point. It may be super difficult to let go of that old way. But I'm telling you, there's payoffs. There's big payoffs if you can manage to do that. It looks so beautiful. Now, the middle card was the advice card, or the where it's going card. And this card is strength, which is interesting. When I think about strength, or when I have the strength card in a reading, it tends to refer to the qualities of a person that have developed from their experiences in life that have put them in a position to be uniquely qualified for something or uniquely suited to something. The goddess here is Oya, a Yoruba goddess. And this goddess is the patron of female leadership and strength, or feminine leadership and strength. Like I said, you don't have to be female-bodied to have feminine qualities. Maybe you have certain strengths or abilities that have arisen due to your life circumstances or experiences. Think also of those qualities that are considered feminine in our culture, things like nurturing and fostering relationships and that kind of thing. So maybe it's important to take a leadership role in fostering this relationship, or nurturing it into a new way of being in relationship. Or maybe you've just got to be the one that asks the other one out, which isn't traditionally what we would call feminine. But in this reading, I'm seeing this strength card could be a sort of bringing together card where, there's the you and the them, and I feel like there's a strong pull here between these two sides. They're not sides, but there's strong pull here between the you and the them. And as I do sometimes, I threw down 3 more cards. One of them is the 3 of Cups. Yay! This looks celebratory. It looks good. It looks like friendships and happiness and love. Seven of Swords, I want to tell you to follow your heart with this and to go your way that your heart is saying, even though others may disagree. And I've also got Tradition. I've got Juno, which is the Empress card in this deck. Again, we're speaking to those qualities which are attributed to femininity. Ooh, use your feminine wiles. Or just be open to that feminine side of yourself in this relationship. What do you think? How does this work for you? Let me know. I'd love to hear. That's all I have for you now. I want to thank you for being here with me whenever and wherever you are. Green Ink Radio podcasts are sponsored by Green Ink Communications, and you can find Tarot Talk and other great shows on greeninkradio.com, also on iTunes and at Spreaker.com. Follow us on Spreaker if you haven't already. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. This is Tarot Talk with Mystic Cat on Green Ink Radio, wishing you a glorious